Okay. Chapter 35, I do not imagine that they were different, for I see that one and the same course of study comprised of all those branches of knowledge which were esteemed necessary for a man of learning, and one who wished to become eminent in civil administration, and that they who had received this knowledge, if they had sufficient powers for speaking in public, and devoted themselves without any impediment from nature to oratory, became distinguished for eloquence. Aristotle himself, accordingly, when he saw Isocrates grow remarkable for the number and quality of his scholars, because he himself has diverted his lectures from forensic and civil causes to more elegance of language, changed on a sudden almost his whole system of teaching, and quoted a verse from the tragedy of Philoctetes. That is not right, with a little alteration, for the hero said that it was disgraceful for him to be silent while he allowed barbarians to speak. But Aristotle said that it was disgraceful for him to be silent while he allowed Isocrates to speak. He therefore adorned and illustrated all philosophical learning and associated the knowledge of things with practice and speaking, nor did this escape the knowledge of that very sagacious monarch Philip, who sent for him as a tutor for his son Alexander, that he might acquire from the same teacher instructions at once in conduct and in language. Now, if anyone desires either to call that philosopher who instructs us fully in things and words an orator, he may do so without opposition from me. Or if he prefer to call that orator of whom I speak as having wisdom united with eloquence a philosopher, I shall make no objection, provided it be allowed that neither his inability to speak, who understands his subject, but cannot set it forth in words, nor his ignorance, to whom matter is wanting, though words abound, can merit commendation. And if I had to choose one of the two, I should prefer uneloquent good sense to loquacious folly. But if it be inquired which is the more eminent excellence, the palm is to be given to the learned orator, and if they allow the same person to be a philosopher, there is an end of controversy. But if they distinguish them, they will acknowledge their inferiority in this respect, that all their knowledge is inherent in the complete orator, but in the knowledge of the philosopher's eloquence is not necessarily inherent, which, though it may be undervalued by them, must of necessity be thought to give a finishing grace to their sciences. When Crassius had spoken thus, he made a pause for a while, and the rest kept silence. 36. Coda then observed, I cannot indeed complain, Crassius, that you seem to me to have given a dissertation upon a different subject from that on which you had undertaken to speak. For if you have contributed to our conversation more than was either laid upon you by us or given notice of by yourself, but certainly it was the part that belonged to you to speak upon the embellishments of language, and you had already entered upon it and distributed the whole excellence of eloquence into 4 parts. And when you had spoken upon the first 2, as we indeed thought sufficiently, but as you said yourself, curiously and slightly, you had 2 others left. How we should speak, first elegantly and next aptly. But when you were proceeding to these particulars, the tide, as it were, of your genius suddenly hurried you to a distance from land and carried you out into the deep, almost beyond the view of us all. For embracing all knowledge of everything, you did not indeed teach it us, for that was impossible in so short a space of time. But I know not what improvement you may have made in the rest of the company. As for myself, you have carried me altogether into the heart of the academy, in regard to which I could wish that there were true, which you have often asserted, that it is not necessary to consume our lives in it, but that he may see everything in it who only turns his eyes towards it. But even if the view be somewhat obscure, or I should be extraordinarily dull, I shall assuredly never rest or yield to fatigue until I understand their doubtful ways and arts of disputing for and against every question. Caesar then said, "One thing in your remarks, Crassus, struck me very much, that you said that he who did not learn anything soon could never thoroughly learn it at all, so that I can have no difficulty in making the trial and either immediately understanding what you extolled to the skies in your observations, or, if I cannot do so, losing no time, as I may remain content with what I have already acquired." Here Sulpicius observed, "I indeed, Crassus, neither desire any acquaintance with your Aristotle, nor Carneades, nor any other philosopher. You may either imagine that I despair of being able to acquire their knowledge, or that, as is really the case, I despise it. The ordinary knowledge of common affairs, and such as are litigated in the forum, is great enough for me for attaining that degree of eloquence which is my object. And even in that narrow circle of science, I am ignorant of a multitude of things which I begin to study whenever any cause in which I am to speak requires them. If, therefore, you are not now fatigued, and if we are not troublesome to you, revert to those particulars which contribute to the merit and splendor of language, particulars which I desire to hear from you, not to make me despair that I can ever possibly attain eloquence, but to make some addition to my stock of learning."